Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. It's Thursday morning. It's a beautiful sunny morning this last day of November. As we make our way into December, tomorrow is December 1st. Tomorrow is the first day as we count down towards Christmas. If you have Advent calendars, those start tomorrow. And so today we continue our journey through Scripture, daily word number 824 on this long journey together. So, as always, I'm grateful that you be with me and carve out time to be with me and share your lives with me and to just continue this conversation through Scripture. Well, and I'm grateful when you offer greetings whenever you tune in. I appreciate that as well. If you missed last night, you missed a great meal and a good time and a good conversation about keeping awake and about Scripture and about how we share our lives together. So, folks who were there last night, hopefully they had a good time and we learned something together. And we'll gather again next Wednesday for our second Advent Wednesday night. So, you're always welcome to come for that. We have dinner at 6 o'clock. So, this morning I've chosen for our Scripture Romans chapter 10, verse 17. And we hear these words: Faith comes from what is heard, and what is heard comes through the word of Christ. So, in context, as I thought about this scripture for this morning, last night we talked about this scripture from the Gospel of Mark, these powerful words that Jesus gives as he enters the temple for the very last time. It's his longest sermon in the Gospel of Mark, and there's lots of things, and we talked about lots of the things that kind of stuck out at us last night from this particular scripture and from the video from Dr. Willimon that we watched. But one of the things that connected me from last night to today is these particular words from verse 31 of Mark 13. And Jesus says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." And then we jump to this morning. Faith comes from what is heard, and what is heard comes through the word of Christ. I remember my very first preaching class, and we talked a lot about preaching, and then it was our turn. And I think we kind of drew straws, but we were assigned a scripture, and we were given a short time in that class, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but we were given a short time to prepare a sermon. And then we stood up in front of our peers and preached that particular sermon for the very first time. But what they said to us, what they implored of us, what they cautioned us about, I even think, if you will, was to simply preach the word. We don't need a lot of fluff. We don't need a lot of fillers. Simply preaching the word. I don't remember a lot about that sermon, frankly, and all that it entailed. I do remember talking about washing dishes at my grandma's house and looking out the window. You know, sinks are always, if they're done right, put over a window. I remember talking about that, and the feedback I got was them appreciating my analogy about what I talked about. I preached what I prepared. Did I preach the word? I don't know. I'm not sure I know exactly what that means. But I know that for us, on Wednesday night or on Sunday morning when preaching does happen, that it's Christ's word that I'm called to preach, that Christ is the word. And if salvation comes by faith and faith comes by hearing the word of Christ, then we're compelled to live in that kind of way. And so I wonder for us, when we listen, when we hear preaching, when we share in conversation like we did last night around the table, because I think preaching happens in lots of ways. Preaching, what us preachers do for 15 or 20 minutes or however long it is on Sunday morning is one thing. And it's an important part of what we do. But I think to me, preaching also comes by the way we live, by the way we talk with each other, by the words that we say and the actions that we take. And last night, I mentioned it last night, but you've all experienced this when you gather around the table. There's something about the conversations. And one of the folks last night alluded to the fact that the conversation around the table helped her immensely. Faith comes from what is heard, and what is heard comes through the word of Christ. And that's really what preaching and that's really what life are all about. So the question, I think, for us, as we live our lives, what will our life say today? Whatever the day brings, whatever encounters that we have, whatever it is that begs for our attention, the real question is, what will our life say? Whatever the day brings, we should preach the word. It's Thursday, and I've got a bunch of notes in front of me and a computer screen filled with some words for Sunday. And I wonder, based on our conversation last night, okay, what's God trying to say? What's God trying to say through me? But what's God trying to say through us every single day? Jesus reminded us, I read it. Jesus reminded us, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. So I think the season of Advent that we're rapidly approaching, the being a light that we've talked about, it's a question, what will our life say today? And whatever the day brings, we are challenged to preach the word. And that's just simply by how we live. So that's our word for today. I hope it's one that we can grab a hold of as we live and preach the word through our very lives. So thanks for being with me. Thanks for sharing your life with me. Thanks for always joining in with me on this daily word conversation. I'll look forward to being with you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So as always, know of God's love that surrounds you. Know of my love for you. Have a great day.